Washington mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. And AM 630. WMAL.
It's 8:07. Coming up at 8:35, should the police be able to temporarily confiscate your weapons if they think you are mentally imbalanced? We'll talk about that. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Brian Wilson.
You know, it's the start of the new year, and on Tuesday of this year, of this week, the mandatory contraceptive coverage that is in the Obamacare law went into effect. This means that if you provide health care for your employees, that you must provide contraceptive coverage under the law. You must provide it to the women who are under the plan. So, here's the problem. There are many people, many of them Roman Catholics, who do not believe that that is a good thing. They believe, in fact, that it's a gravely immoral practice. And they don't feel that in the companies that they run, that they should be provided, mandatory requirement of the law, that they provide contraception coverage. There is a guy, and his name is Tom Monaghan. And he's, I'm sorry, did I get that right? Tom Monaghan. He is the founder of Domino's Pizza. He now runs Domino's Farms Corp. Near Ann Arbor. And he has fought this. He says, look, this is just against my personal religious beliefs.
Yes.
His attorney is on the line to explain this whole situation and what's going to happen with this law. Her name is Erin Mersino. Erin, thanks for joining us here.
Oh, great to be with you this morning.
I hope I did a good job of setting that all up. But basically, the law is in effect today, but you got a temporary injunction against the law handed down by a judge this past weekend. Tell us how that happened.
That's correct. And I represent Thomas Monaghan, and it's his property management corporation. It's not Domino's Pizza. He actually sold that 14 years ago. So I just want to clarify that. But we filed a complaint on the 14th of December challenging the HHS mandate on constitutional grounds that it violates Mr. Monaghan's religious freedom as well as the corporation's. And then we quickly filed an emergency temporary restraining order on the 21st of December, and we were able to get that through on the 30th of December prior to the HHS mandate taking effect against them, and the judge ruled in our favor.
Now, do you have any hope that this will be maintained going forward, and what is the legal pathway that this measure will take?
Certainly, we truly hope that this is how it stands, and then the ultimate decision is that the HHS mandate is unconstitutional, because it is on First Amendment grounds for so many reasons, and this is actually the second injunction that we were able to get, the Thomas More Law Center. And on both, what the court looks at is there a likelihood of success on the merits?
So really what you want is a Supreme Court showdown on this matter.
There will be. At this point, there's a circuit split, and there's different decisions that have come down. Most are in favor, the majority are in favor of issuing the injunction. But there are a few outliers, such as Hobby Lobby would be the most recognizable, where the court has denied a temporary injunction.
And Ms. Mersino, this was a topic during the election, and when it came up, I think that it was specifically cited for religious institutions, for Catholic hospitals, churches, schools, that would get a kind of a quasi-exemption on this thing through the Department of Health and Human Services. What is the business involved here? Because we know that Mr. Moynihan founded Ave Maria School of Law, which is a Catholic-oriented law school, and other religious... I mean, listen, Tom Monaghan has been very out front with his very devout Catholicism from early on in his days when he still did own Domino's, as well as he owned the baseball team there, and didn't he own the Tigers for a while?
He did.
So what are the businesses involved here? Are they religious businesses?
Well, the two companies where we have been able to get injunctions from the court have both been for-profit companies. So there's a very narrow exemption for nonprofit companies that fall under the religious employer exemption, but it's so narrow. So what would solve this problem is if there were an exemption for-profit companies.
I see. And is there any legal precedent backing up either your position or the government's position on this?
Yes, I believe that all of the legal precedent rules in our favor, and obviously the courts have thought so, the majority of the courts, except for, for instance, the court in Hobby Lobby. But there's substantial case law.
So how long does it take for this thing to finally be decided, in your estimation?
How long will it take?
Yeah.
That's kind of hard to say because we are going through, the appellate process in so many different cases. Thus far, neither of our injunctions have been appealed yet, but of course the government may decide to appeal before their deadline, which for our first case would be the 14th of January, which is coming up. So it's kind of hard to say how long this will take in litigation.
And how long is the injunction for?
For the pendency of the case, and in our first case that we did, which is the Wine Guards case, I'm sure, I don't know if you've heard about it. It's also a for-profit company where we were successful, and that's for the entire duration of the case. And then we're waiting to see if the government's going to appeal that decision. For Mr. Monaghan's case, right now it's a temporary restraining order, and the way that we were able to push this through the court so quickly and be successful is because we filed it as an emergency temporary restraining order. And it's pretty amazing. The court actually came down with its decision on a Sunday,
That is
on
interesting.
December 30th. So they obviously took this seriously, which is why we filed the motion for an emergency relief. But the next step would be to get this transformed into an injunction for the entire duration of the litigation.
And, of course, Mr. Monaghan was at Mass, so he couldn't even be there when he got the decision on a Sunday. I'm just teasing. But, Erin Mersino, let me ask you this. What do you say to people who, there is an argument to be made that contraception these days is often prescribed for medical purposes other than preventing pregnancy? Why should employees of Mr. Monaghan be prevented getting access to that medical need?
Truly what we're challenging is the abortifacient mechanism to contraception. So that is directly in contradiction to Mr. Monaghan's religious beliefs in the Catholic faith. Why is it necessary that an employer have to violate his religious beliefs? There are other avenues, other routes to get contraception, and the government in the Affordable Care Act has exempted so many employers for other reasons.
Other reasons.
Why can't there be an exemption?
Like what? Give us an example of another reason why an employer has been exempted.
Certainly, there are millions of plans which are grandfathered plans, so they don't have to comply with the HHS mandate at all.
Well,
because their plan is grandfathered. And I believe the Newland case cited that there is approximately over 100 million Americans that fall under the grandfathered provision.
Well, it's a fascinating case and one that we'll be watching very closely. It's one of those things where laws are passed by Congress and then there are these unintended consequences, things that crop up where people say, wait a minute, I have a real issue with this, and it has to do with my faith. So your right to practice your religion as you see fit comes in conflict with the laws that have been written. It'll be a very interesting case to see how it's finally resolved. Thanks for joining us, Erin. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.